Lori Pacheca. I read on the bunker that David Miscavige has not lived at or even visited Int Base in 5 years. I think this could be a move suggested by lawyers to help build a case that he could not have orchestrated various abuses that have come to light at that location. What do you think this means, Chris, that David Miscavige lives in California now full-time and part-time in Clearwater? I think you could be partially right. I think that there are other reasons that he has not been to the Int Base in 4 or 5 years as well. My take on it is purely, subjective, just guesswork here. I don't do this a lot in terms of throwing out my guesswork on something, like just totally out of whole cloth here. But here's what I'm thinking is happening. I think that David Miscavige has been sick and tired of the people at the international base. And this is the Gold Base or International Base or Int Management Base or whatever else you want to call it, in San Jacinto, California, up in a little town called Hemet. It's just off of there. This is where they have the barbed wire, going both ways, and they have it all fenced in. It's this great, big, beautiful compound, very well kept up, but a prison, right? It's not an easy place to get out of, and people who have left there have said that they escaped. That's how they got out of there. So this place is not exactly paradise on earth, and since about 1999 or 2000, Miscavige has really been coming down on those people hard, like really laying on the hammer, and I believe that he really thinks that everybody there is working against him, and he is in this state of mind that especially the management people there are just a bunch of suppressive people. Can't be trusted, can't be utilized, have to be very, very closely watched. They have to constantly be berated. They have to be constantly confessing their sins and crimes. And he just works these guys over and works them over and abuses and abuses and abuses them. This is, like I said, especially true of the executives and the management type people who are there. But no one's immune from his wrath. So the bulk of the people who are at the Gold Base or the International Base are Golden Era Productions staff. There's a few different organizations that exist on the base. Golden Era Productions is the main one. They've got state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line audiovisual equipment, a sound studio, stages, or sound recording studios, a big shooting studio. I mean, it's a real production facility up there. And then you have international management people, and then you have the CMO, you have RTC. So you've got another smaller group of people, maybe 100, I'm guessing, in the management end of things, right? All those other things. And then you got a few hundred people, maybe 400 or 500 people who are making up, and that's at most. I mean, it could be a lot less than that, maybe 500 people total, but who are making up Golden Era Productions. So now, what have we seen in the last couple of years? We've seen that Miscavige, we've seen that the exposure of the human rights abuses and beatings and various things that have been going on up there the word started coming out on that in the mid-2000s. And that was a huge PR nightmare for the Church of Scientology. And of course, that just infuriated Miscavige even more, that people would be coming out and exposing his own crimes. So he wasn't down with that. And that probably got him into a frame of mind that no one at this base could be trusted, because any of them could want to leave at any time, and they'd have to get paid off, and they have to readjust how they're going to, get rid of people, because when they were getting rid of Mark Headley, or when Marty Rathbun blew, or Mike Rinder blew, they were just taken off. So now what I understand they're doing is they're actually paying big bucks to people who are leaving to sign non-disclosure agreements that actually have teeth, and so when they leave, they can't really talk. That's what I'm sort of gathering from what's happening these days, which is why you're not hearing a lot about people who are taken off from there. It's not that people aren't taken off. It's just you're not hearing about it that way. So Miscavige is now like, well, I can't, he was exposed. Now he can't trust these people to keep their mouths shut. And he doesn't trust them to do their jobs. He doesn't trust them to forward Scientology. So he just was like, okay, I'm washing my hands of this place. And he goes over to Clearwater, or he goes over to any one of his multiple other places he can live in the world. He's got apartments and setups in Los Angeles and a few places, and Paris and England and, Europe. I mean, and the guy's got enough money he can purchase whatever sort of palatial estate he really wants, actually. I mean, he could do a whole Joel Osteen if he really wanted to. He kind of already has, but now that he's not going to the gold base, he can go to these other places. So he's probably just said, okay, I'm washing my hands of this place. You guys just figure it out for yourselves. Then, the other thing that's happened fairly recently is the KCET Studios were purchased and renovated at great expense. Millions of dollars sunk into it. And a lot of us were sitting there watching that happen going, why are they doing that? Because they've got the same production facilities already created up at Gold Base. Yet we have this thing of Miscavige doesn't trust any of those people and blah, 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 blah. So, if he wanted to, he could have purchased the KCET Studio with the idea of shutting Gold down and moving a lot of those people down to that new Scientology media productions. I shouldn't call it the KCET Studio because it's Scientologyized, and it's the Scientology media productions, or SUMP facility. And so he could bring those technically trained AV professionals from Gold down to SUMP and stick them there and transfer all the functions, right? And one idea that I've talked about with some others with no basis in, nobody's heard that this is happening, no one's thinking this is a foregone conclusion, but it certainly could be that Miscavige could eventually just shut down the Gold Base entirely, just close it all off, transfer all of its personnel to other places in the world where they can do those same functions or do different ones, because the Sea Org is when you're in the Sea Org, you never know what you're going to be doing from one day to the next. You could be a senior executive one day, janitor the next. So they could easily move all those Gold people to LA. They could move the management people to LA to there's a 12-story building on Hollywood Boulevard called the Hollywood Guarantee Building, which is the upper middle management of functions of Scientology all happen in that building. There's plenty of room in that building for another 100 people if they wanted to bring all those management people from the Gold Base and make the HGB the international management headquarters, which it kind of already is now, since they're really not doing a whole lot of management from the Gold Base. So they could just move those people there, or they could, ship them off to Australia or Canada, Europe, wherever, some of those people would end up going, where Miscavige would never have to have his eyes on them again, right? That's something Scientology does, which is why Shelley Miscavige has been disappeared for so many years. So all of that is just, like I said, supposition on my part, but maybe that's what's happening up there.